Morning. I'd like to begin today's meeting of the Somerville Tree Protection Board. Our first item is to approve the minutes or have questions about the minutes from last month meeting. Are there any?
Move to approve. I'll second it.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Our first item of business in terms of tree applications is 115 Wrigley Boulevard. Is anybody here representing that property? Would you like to come address and give us an idea why you want to cut the tree?
Yeah, that's the tree right there. Yeah.
Okay, well, we've all visited it, seen the situation.
I'm sorry.
We've all visited it, and
Mhm.
we've seen the situation with the driveway. So, I think it's sort of obvious that it's doing a number on the driveway. So I don't know if you are willing, and anyone has discussed it with you before. If we remove that tree, are you willing to mitigate that tree with another tree on your property?
So you're saying to take it out and replace it with another tree?
Not in the exact location.
Okay.
No, somewhere on the property.
Like what type of tree?
It would need to be a canopy tree to replace a substantial member of the canopy that this represents.
Okay.
But our arborist could get with you about the multiple species that are available to do so.
Yeah. Is there a recommendation where to put it on the property?
Well, that's the biggest thing I saw was, we looked, these are small lots, and so,
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're pretty
all
tight.
limitations, but, as you face the house and the garage, off to the right, is a large grass area.
Right.
However, you'd need to have knowledge of utility location, before any tree was planted there,
Right.
and, that could be worked out, but other than that, that's the way I feel. The tree does present a problem.
Mhm.
If you were to fix the driveway, another option is to use a pervious material for the driveway like gravel. I'm quite sure the subdivision HOA probably would.
Yeah, I don't, as far as uniformity, I'm actually on the HOA board too. I think as uniformity, I would be the first one in probably the neighborhood to do that. And I think that would cause a problem. I don't think it would get voted on or passed. I do have a neighbor. I think most of you were there. I don't know what type of tree it is, but there's a tree I could probably plant similar to that one that is kind of more of almost like a narrow teepee shape, if you will. I'm not very versed, and I know that's a pine, obviously,
Right.
and right beside it is a crepe myrtle.
Great.
I could definitely talk to somebody about the options of what could go between the houses, just to maintain space and not to overcrowd that kind of
Right. Of course.
buffer, if you will.
Those are all considerations, but, it's a really nice tree, the pine tree, unfortunately. And we see this a lot,
Mhm.
and they get themselves in trouble over time because they're doing what they're supposed to do, and that is grow. So, other comments? Anybody?
I think you'd said y'all have been there 11 years.
Yeah, 11
I think
years.
so.
We've
And
been,
and Killview was
2014.
definitely a good planned development, and that's obviously a vigorous growing tree. In my opinion, it's just kind of outgrown the area, grown itself into a bad spot.
Yeah.
And we'll continue to see that kind of thing in this neighborhood over the years.
Yeah, unfortunately. We see it a lot of places.
Sure.
They do a beautiful job setting up, leave a lot of the existing trees and small lots, and it's a collision. Anyone?
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, go ahead.
As far as if I were to take it down and have to plant a new tree, is there a timeline that I would have from like, okay, it's dropped in August or September, 6 months out, I've got to plant a new tree? Or
Yes, there's a timeline.
Yeah, usually we give the applicant 6 months to install the tree. If there's any issues, you can apply to have another 6 months added onto that. So, and we also do have a suggested species list that we can kind of go over after this.
Any other comments?
December is Arbor Day, and that would be a good time for you to plant your tree in December.
Okay. Noted.
I move to approve the removal of this pine tree in front of the property with the idea that the applicant will work with the town arborists to mitigate the loss.
I'll second it.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Remove the tree.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next item of business is 117 T Farm Road. Is there anybody here representing T Farm Road? This is a large red oak.
Yes, a beautiful tree. I don't think any of us really saw anything wrong with the tree. There is some growth in the root, probably caused from too much shading on that side of the house. But to me, it seems like we could let the tree stay and maybe do some selective pruning on the tree to allow more light to come through. Hopefully take care of the issue of the growth on the roof itself.
And just clean the roof.
It's a what?
Just clean the roof.
That's number one, I
Yeah.
think. I think it needs an herbicide rather quickly. That's a dangerous root to work on with all that growth, for anybody. Need to be roped in for sure. But, that's a significant amount of growth on some shingles, and that's doing absolutely no good. That would be done no matter what, and maybe some branches could remove to lessen the shading that it, but we've seen much worse shading that I've just never ever seen a garden on a roof like that before.
I would think it would be wise to recommend to the applicant as well that they look to do a little bit of pruning in the buffer beside the tree. That's pretty well wooded and allow some air and sunlight to pass through there, as well as the red oak.
And a big plus is the pervious driveway, right next to the house and where the tree is.
You got a picture there? Yeah. Well. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion that we deny removal of the tree. I recommend some cleaning of the roof and some pruning in the tree and in the buffer behind the tree as well.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. The next item of business is 220 Smythe Drive.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing?
All right.
We gonna take it down?
Huh?
Are we gonna take it down?
I don't know that we're gonna do much of anything except discuss it
okay.
at this point.
Due to the proximity, how close it is to the house?
We've seen this before too, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a tough one.
yeah, it's a healthy tree. You can see where I've trimmed it up before. And if it goes down, that stump's gonna take the corner of the house. If it goes the other way, it's gonna be on the house. If it goes away from the house, the root system's gonna take the corner of the house. And it's a pretty tree. I think it's a grand oak. Isn't that what?
Yep.
Isn't that what it is?
Live oak, it's a grand, and it's a grand tree, yes.
Yeah. See where the ring around it's where I used to have a deck, and it grew so big that, it was uprooting the deck, so I took it off. I'm willing to replace the tree with something else. But just like you said earlier, not there.
Is that a tree you planted? Or it was there when you built?
No, it was there when we bought the house. And it wasn't that close to the corner. The deck I put on, but that's the corner of the house was a patio before. So it's not something that I added to the house. It was already there and the tree had just grown that big.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, being a live oak is the most wind resistant tree in the southeast. It's not susceptible to root throw. You may have a limb break off, so it is a tough one. But
Yeah. It is, well, I'm a retired adjuster for insurance company. I've seen these trees before that if you, like right now, we've got all this rain, and the ground is soft and it's soft all around. If we had one of these, this being hurricane season, something come in, the ground is already soft, so could take it down. So I'm just concerned for the safety of the house and.
Yeah.
And I have taken pictures. I've sent it to my insurance company, because I want to make sure they'll cover it. If we don't take the tree down, are you going to cover it? And I haven't heard back from them yet, so I don't know. I don't know what they would say.
When did you get in touch with them?
I'm sorry.
When did you get in touch with the insurance company? When?
Last week.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I just sent it to them. USAA is who I got. And they're pretty good about it. I don't anticipate any problem with it, but if it's something they say, well, that should have been taken down, I don't want to have a problem. But that's my story. And it is tough. I mean, I have gotten down there on my hands and knees and there is roots that's running up under the deck. I don't know if there's affecting the foundation or not, but those things, when they come down, how big that stump is.
All right. When did the foundation, that addition, when was that constructed?
That's not an addition.
It's not, it's always been that.
It's been right there.
Okay, I guess I'm looking at that cut you made on the tree.
Well, the deck I put the deck on there, but the deck
Okay.
used to come around the house and hey, let's do around.
I got
the
you
tree. That's
now.
kind
I
of
see
cool.
what
So I went around the tree and, the tree grew into the deck. So.
Mhm. But you haven't seen any effect on the foundation of that part of the house there from that tree, have you?
No.
Okay.
That's a crawl space under your house, right?
No, sir, it's on a slab.
So right there where the window is on the addition, that's a slab.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They call it an elevated slab.
Okay.
So you bring, I guess you're familiar with that.
Somehow in the back of my mind, I thought it appeared to from the vents that it was a crawl space. So
I guess it would be different if it was a crawl space.
yes, you could do what you did in the porch, climb underneath and see how big the roots when they get out of the ground and
Yes, sir.
move around.
Yeah, you can't get into that one. And besides that, it's just a mess.
What's that when the leaves fall?
Huh?
It's a mess,
It makes a mess, yeah.
leaves
Right.
wise, yeah, well,
Yeah.
we know that. Other thoughts?
Well, I wish you would get some kind of response from your insurance company. I think if they came back and said, we just feel like we can't insure that because of the tree being so close to the house. I might really be more inclined to say, maybe it is something that we can look at removing or allowing removal along with mitigation. But
I really don't think the insurance company's gonna give me a problem with it. I'm just trying to cover my bases.
yeah, I don't blame you there at all.
It's better to ask before than after.
Yes.
Well, and a member of this, a member of this board has had the same issue with a live oak tree on their property and insurance company and wrote a letter as a knowledgeable degreed person in forestry that a live oak is not going to do the damage that you say to the insurance company. The insurance company accepted that. Now, if this were another kind of tree, a water oak or something, it might be a different matter. But as we looked at the tree, if we look at the photograph, The curvature there is back towards the back of the yard. If that tree were to be wind thrown or heaved from the root system, there's a good likelihood, certainly not a guarantee, that it would fall back that way. But live oaks are genetically coded to they have a very wide root system that goes out well beyond, and it's well beyond the canopy, and it's genetically coded to exist and stand up in a hurricane. Now, after all the hurricanes that we've seen, water oaks go down, other trees go down, but live oaks seldom. I mean, just very seldom. So so being thrown or root upheaval, even with the saturated soil, is not likely. And I think we need to
based on
consider.
what you're saying, that the size of the root system is to the canopy, like to this side of the house, going away from the house, is the root system. Where's it going the other way? Where's it's not going back up under the house, or?
Well, I know that, boy, that thing's loud. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
When we were there a couple of years ago, we actually, the chairman and I as well got on our hands and knees too.
Yes, sir.
And,
I was there.
I remember,
Yeah.
and we removed the leaves and we did not see roots going that way. Now, why they are not, I can't tell you. Sometimes a root will hit an obstruction and just divert and run alongside it, parallel to it. But I didn't see any roots. So coupled with what was already said, that if your insurance company were to say the tree needs to come down, and or you were to produce some sort of structural documentation that the roots are hitting the foundation or are really going to do damage to the foundation, or believe that they may, then that might make me change my mind. But at this point in time, I just don't see, I'm not seeing any evidence that tells me the tree should be removed, other than I know it makes you uncomfortable because it's so close, and that's perfectly understandable. But with some documentation that there is either foundation damage or a great potential for foundation damage, or your insurance company has an issue, I just can't support removing the tree.
I think if you were to have a heavy rain and a storm, the chances of that blowing toward your house I just don't think it would happen. It's already leaning away. And if it were to fall, and like again, the root system of live oaks, it's better than just about any other tree. And so that's wonderful that it's got that kind of firm foundation to hold on, even when we have these terrible storms.
You don't ever know till it comes down. So,
No,
and hopefully it won't cause any damage or to the house. And you're right. I mean, I feel like that if it was to fall, it's going to fall away from the house.
yes.
But the reason is because I've already trimmed off the limb that was over the roof. I
Yeah.
think the tree now is starting to grow away from the house.
I think it's another limb over the roof, maybe we saw the other day, that could be removed, but really the characteristics of a live oak having catastrophic failure
Yeah.
is very low. My biggest concern is possibly roots and foundation, you know,
Mhm. And that's
but as far as.
my
tree-
only concern.
Yeah,
You know, that I've got other trees that's going to reach the house,
Yeah.
you know, besides this one, but
and I'm the one that wrote the letter to the insurance company. They wanted me to prune a live oak from over my house. And I had it pruned, but guy in a bucket truck, guy climbed it, sent pictures to the insurance company, and they said, oh, that limb's got to be removed. So I just wrote them a letter about characteristics of a live oak. I wasn't concerned with it. I was more concerned about other trees,
mhm.
and they accepted it, you know. But I'm not really worried about my live oak close to the house.
Yeah.
I understand your concern with the root system and the failure going the other way. And I don't know if it'll help you make you feel any better. Everybody here is a big fan of live oaks. The entire low country is. I can't even tell you how many storms I've been through, and how many trees I've removed off of homes after those storms. But I can tell you this, the amount of live oaks that uproot is just super, super low. I'm struggling to even to come up with an example of one for me that I've had to deal with in being in the industry for the last 25 years. They are so resistant to root rot. It prevents
Go
their-
with what you say. I mean, I was here during Hugo. And I didn't go around and pay attention to what trees went down, what
I
trees
know.
didn't, because they were all down, but.
Well, Hugo's a different thing. I don't think anybody in the industry that has any sort of credentials is gonna be able to tell you that their tree is gonna survive a Hugo event.
Yeah, basically with Hugo, the live oaks got defoliated, and then in most cases you might see where a limb was twisted off because it's such stringy wood.
Yeah.
It's hard to split.
You ever tried to split one?
Oh yeah, I have.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Would there be any merit in examining, as Danny was saying earlier, about what we examined as much as we could with our hands right at the edge of the foundation to see if there were big roots coming? We were very surprised that there weren't. Any reason that we couldn't do a more significant excavation right adjacent to the foundation and to see if you got some great big guy just right underneath waiting to go under the house, or already is. That's often an option we recommend to people before we just assume. Granted, it's close. I don't understand exactly where you're coming from. Horrible pictures out there about when trees tip up in the wrong way. But I would be inclined to one that doesn't make too much of a mess. There's ways to do it without a heck of a lot of mess. To examine if you have major roots traveling under the foundation.
You talk about dig around between the tree and the.
Right up against the foundation, straight down, right down the line. If something major was found in there, that would change the view we might have.
What would you need? Just photographs of it, or you have to come back
Airplane.
out there?
Oh,
Y'all are $35 me to death. No.
no, we would not, we would have a revisit. Under these circumstances, with what you're going through with the insurance company and everything else. No, you would not have to redo all those
I
applications.
was kidding.
No, that's right. Other people asked too.
So you're talking about coming dig alongside the footing and dig down to the bottom of the footing, or how deep are you talking about? Because surface wise, it's, I mean, we're only that far to the top of the footing probably. But you're talking about digging alongside.
And going below it, because the danger is something going underneath the footing, if it can and did, and it continuing to expand and grow and cracking the slab. I mean, I don't know if there's people who know more about that slab development here than I do. I think there is some resilience in the raised slab as opposed to a flat on, 6-inch slab with a house sitting on it. I think that would be worth knowing. What do you think?
If there's a
Good with the
possibility that root system is going to,
airspace.
that is imminently going to damage your property or your foundation, then certainly I think we'd be open-minded about that, but we just would need to see some sort of documentation that is the case. So yeah, you could remove the mulch back a foot or 18 inches or 2 feet, and then hand dig if you choose, and along that, so that down to the point where we can see whether or not roots are going to undermine your foundation or hit it and crack it. You can do that with a shovel, or actually you can
Airspace,
take an air compressor and just blow it back.
or an airspace? Of course.
Well, an air spade, yeah, I mean, certainly you can use an air spade. I don't know anybody here in town that has an air spade. Nathaniel may. But if not an air spade, you can simply use an air compressor. But Nathaniel, what would be a rough cost for someone to come with an air spade to do that?
It wouldn't be too bad because it's a short run. They charge per linear foot.
Mhm.
So you wouldn't need to have very much tested. It'd probably fall into a minimum charge. If you, I don't know that, I'm not allowed to recommend anybody.
No, I don't understand. Oh,
There is a guy in town that I know that has one. though.
What is the system you're talking about?
It's just basically it's called an air spade, but it's just a fancy word for a big metal pole on the end of a compressor that shoots air out at 150, 200 PSI and it blows the dirt out. As opposed to digging it out mechanically, which would harm the route that you're trying to investigate. So it's just a non-invasive way to dig and see if there's any roots that are affecting your foundation.
I've never heard of that before, but
It makes a mess, but it's,
Aren't you glad
but
you're
it
here?
works.
I was gonna say that dirt's gotta go somewhere. How you're blowing it in.
It goes.
Aren't you glad you're here?
All right,
Okay,
that's
so
all I got. I mean, I just,
I understand.
That's a tough one.
Do you appreciate where we're coming from as far as the suggestions we're making?
well, yeah.
Well,
It's
that
not,
way-
it, it's not your house, but you know, I know you guys know more about it than I do, but I just don't want it to,
We understand.
uproot that whole corner of the house there. And I thought maybe when you were there, you thought that was something that was added and it's not. It was part of the original house. The deck was added. Matter of fact, the deck was added and taken away and then put back.
And you were talking about being a raised slab. So looking at the brick veneer, basically that's filled with dirt.
Yes,
And then the slab is about where the,
it's block on the inside,
Mhm.
then it's brick veneer on the outside, and it's filled with dirt. And and actually that, that dirt has settled. I got a little bit of belly in, yeah, in the room. That you know, if I drop a golf ball, it will run to the middle of the floor.
So there's just simply soil filling the vacancy
Yeah,
between
it's soil.
the blocks. It's the blocks at the base, right?
Yeah, the block is on the outside. Yeah, I mean, on the inside, you got brick on the outside, but in here on the inside is compacted dirt. And then it's got a 4-inch slab on top of that.
Wow.
so it looks like you probably got 10 or 12 inches of dirt or whatever. And then the slab.
Yeah, there's at least a foot of dirt and and of course, the whole house, I mean, that's how you build it on an elevated slab. Or you level the slab on the lot, that my lot slopes toward the back. So, yeah, it's full of dirt.
Well, under these circumstances, I'd like to make a motion that we delay decision on this tree pursuant to an investigation of below the brick veneer to examine challenges to the foundation by roots.
I'll,
Upon which, you can consult the arborist, you can send pictures, or he will go out to your house and look at it.
And until we get a report from the insurance company.
yeah, depending on what I mean, I may hear from them, I may not, I don't know.
Yeah.
But we'll
As
see.
well as verification of the status of the tree in view of the insurance company.
It really was more of I'm just letting them know it's there. You know, it's kind of like I used to go to houses and if they had like a Rottweiler or, you know, some kind of vicious dog, you're supposed to report it. And,
Right.
you know, so I'm just making them aware that this is there. Not that it's a problem or anything like that, but I just want them to know that it's there.
That's a motion.
I second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I
No speak.
don't get a vote. So the motion is you just table it right now and you want me to dig up alongside that? I don't think I'm gonna blow it. I think I'm gonna just dig it and down along the side. and
Yeah,
look for roots.
because of the importance of this tree, and recognizing your concerns that are totally legitimate, I think there needs to be one more step.
You see some of those flowers that's planted in that bed? You ought to try to dig a hole with the roots is.
Oh, yeah. Well, if nothing else, it's gonna be very interesting to see what the roots have done.
I'll
when it come to-
do that and then get back with you. I just contact Justin.
Yes,
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir.
The last item is 325 Aberdeen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for y'all's consideration and time in this matter. I've got a few concerns with the tree. I'm not really any kind of expert on trees, but I don't believe that's a live oak. I believe it's a water oak. Is that correct?
No, it's a lot.
Red oak.
Live oak.
Live
Is
oak.
it live oak?
Yeah, it's a
I
lot.
love live oaks.
Yeah, it's live oak.
Here's my problem with the tree. We've been there 12 years. Of course, when we moved in, the tree was not that big. And as you can see, the canopy of that tree is pretty broad for a tree that size. The roots have gotten completely out of control. There are several roots, and I know y'all visited, that are over 6 inches high around the base of that tree. That in itself creates a trip hazard for anybody. It makes mowing the yard very difficult. But my bigger concern is the tree roots that have grown out to the sewer cleanouts from my house and my neighbor's house. I actually replaced my neighbor's cleanout cap a couple of months ago, and I had to physically chip roots away from that thing just to get in there and cap it back off. It's become very entangled around those septic lines. It's also beginning to crack the sidewalk and push it up in a couple of spots. And as you can see, it's growing right beside my walkway straight towards the foundation. I just feel like it's much more of a liability at this point than it is any kind of help to our neighborhood. I'm fully willing to do some, replacing, mitigation, however we can make that look, but I just feel like the tree needs to go. I know the arborist recommended we prune the roots, but my bigger concern with that is the amount of roots that we'd have to prune. I just feel like that's going to make the tree very unstable. And, maybe y'all can give me a little more insight on that, but I just feel like it's time for that tree to go away, and maybe we can put some smaller trees around in different places in the yard to mitigate what we've lost, if that would be acceptable to the committee here today.
I want to add a couple of things as well. That flower bed that we have underneath that window right there, that used to be bushes, and we got approval from our HOA to remove those bushes, and we relocated those in our backyard. But trying to put flowers in that little area, we ran into a lot of the root system from that tree right up to our house. So we know that it's growing like that. If you take a look at, I don't know if you have access to the picture of the tree on the town's website, like when you go into the permit to apply, if you do have access to that, you can clearly see that the two comparisons, the roots on this tree have risen to that 6 inches. It was not even originally like that. So the tree itself the root seems to be growing up out of the ground, as opposed to just spreading and, kind of keeping itself, contained. I don't think that that's really helpful or safe for anybody. And the damage that my husband's talking about for the sidewalk, it's going towards the walkway, which is of course public domain, but it has, in the time that we have lived there, created a trip hazard that wasn't there originally. So we know that it's doing damage to the surrounding side.
Can I mention one more thing too about that sidewalk? I don't know if y'all noticed while you were there, but the roots have actually grown under the sidewalk, and they're out in the little common grass area there too, headed towards the curb, probably already under the street. So eventually it's going to start cracking the street out there. That would be my next issue that I can see coming. I'm just trying to get ahead of it, because I've already got somebody that will do it, and we're going to get the stump removed if y'all will approve it. And then we can, we're more than happy to put 3 or 4 inch trees around the yard to make up for what we've taken out. That's not really a huge deal to me. I'm trying to get ahead of this thing before it causes, either me to have to tear out my sewer line or my neighbor's sewer line, or some kid comes running through my yard and trips and breaks his leg. And then I got to explain that to somebody.
Or damage to our home, our investment. I mean, we just don't want to have to,
I realize it's a tree and everybody likes trees, but there's a lot of ways to get around
Yeah.
a tree.
that's gonna cost us a good bit of, dollars, if that does damage to our home underneath.
Maybe I'll have some thoughts on this that we can.
Thoughts, anybody?
Well, I think one thing you can certainly do, consider is pruning some of those roots that have extended out towards the sidewalk over to the septic line. You can root prune some of those to keep those from doing any further damage. That would be one thing you can do. And also, I think Justin might have mentioned this, that mulching up under that tree, maybe bringing in a little topsoil and putting some mulch on top of those roots would kind of help cover those roots there. How long have you noticed the septic being an issue? How long has that gone on?
At least 2 years.
Is it? It's just been that clean out cap area that's been the issue, or has it been affecting the lines or anything like that?
It hasn't broken into the lines yet. But I could not even dig around my neighbor's clean out, which is beyond mine about maybe 2 feet. We measured it. It's approximately about 16 feet to my clean out from the base of that tree. And I think as a general rule, from what I've gathered from the arborist and doing a little research, they don't recommend you cut anything more than like 3 to 5. Well, they base it on the size of the tree, how close you can prune.
Right.
And I'm just concerned that with the amount of roots I would have to prune, it's going to destabilize that tree, because
You don't.
as another general rule, the root system is about the same as the canopy, which means if I cut the root system down by 20% or 30%, now my canopy is not being supported by that much of the root system. And we have that tree, and I don't know if y'all looked at the map of the compass or anything, but that tree is in the front yard, and back behind where that picture was taken is north. So the north wind blows directly on that tree. There's nothing to shield it. So any kind of northeast wind or north wind blows directly on it. And I'm just concerned it's gonna wind up in my neighbor's driveway if I do too much root pruning.
If you were to prune roots, you could prune it, you could, like he was talking about, dig you a ditch at your foundation, of your house. So that if there's a root there, you could cut it. And I'm not talking about pruning anywhere else, but at your house, ditch, if there's a root there, cut it. But that doesn't mean that you're gonna cut every root all the way around. That's not acceptable. And if you were to, where that sewer line is, or is a compromise there, are you concerned? You could cut that root at that point, but you don't cut everything all around. That's certainly not acceptable. At your house, at the foundation of your house, you could do a ditch there to find any root that might be there.
The roots are spreading towards the neighbor's house, towards our house, and out towards the sidewalk. So it would seem that it would be necessary to prune at least 75% of the radius of those roots to keep further damage from happening. So that would just leave like one area towards the driveway, which could be, affected later. It seems like this particular tree would need pruning in all directions in order to mitigate any property loss or any problems.
If I could make a comment here. There's a lot has been said on this tree. I do want us to consider how invasive some of those roots are. That would probably be, I'm not going to say it'd be detrimental to the tree, but it wouldn't be good for the tree if he were to remove those really large roots that are a potential problem for people. I can sympathize with y'all on that. You know, it's a hard, this definitely is something that falls into a gray area and an area that we need to interpret, but I just don't want to cast aside the problem that those roots are causing this family. So, I think that root pruning every root that is an issue right now is going to be excessive to the tree. And it's just going to put them into a situation down the road where they're going to have to use more resources to fix a problem that's been caused by removing so many roots. If they are willing to mitigate that tree for another canopy tree to go back into that front yard, that especially if it were installed properly, there's a potential that tree might have been installed a little bit too high. I would be more comfortable.
Is there room in the yard to do more mitigation? I mean, we're talking about, replacing that tree in the front yard. Was there room in the backyard to do any tree planting back there as well?
Well, sir, I'm more than willing to, if we could, that tree is approximately 12, maybe 14 inches. I'm more than willing to maybe throw a smaller tree back in the front yard in some location.
But when we talk about mitigation, in this case, they need to be canopy trees. So we're talking, and certainly not all of them get as big as a live oak, but it would have to be a canopy tree that we would need to mitigate with.
I'm willing to put 3 or 4 in the backyard if that's what it takes, to make the tree mitigation, an option. That's definitely something I would be more than willing to do.
I'm pretty concerned about the magnitude of the multiple areas. It's not just one. The sewer area, that troubles me. You can deal with the foundation of the house. That may have to be something you could redo every once in a while to make sure the roots aren't going under the house, but you're talking about PVC pipe. I don't know how shallow it is at that point, for the pipe to the sewer line itself. But if I guess those roots literally lifted the cap off.
Yeah.
The clean out?
It did crack it. Now, and you're talking about the depth of it, I can give you some idea. Right there at the flower bed, when we put that flower bed in, we were right on top of the sewer line that comes out to the clean out.
Okay.
And it was only about yay deep at the house, right? Right on top of the
Right.
footing almost.
Sure.
It's be a little bit below it. But I would guess, with the proper fall, that it's probably maybe 2 feet deep out there, maybe a little more, but it's not very deep. And, I'm concerned that those roots, now that they're there, if they start sensing moisture in that area, they're going to start wrapping more and more around that pipe. That could be a nasty mess to have to fix.
I'd like to add one more thing as well. It's my understanding that this particular development was done in 2 phases. And when you walk around the neighborhood and you take a look at the trees, there's live oaks there, in most of the people's yards. But when you look at the live oaks that seem to have been planted in the front phase, which I believe was done first by a different developer or builder or whatever, those particular trees don't seem to be having the same trouble that these in the back section of the neighborhood seem to be having. I know ours is pretty substantial, and then the neighbor across the street from us, it's not as bad, but you can see their roots coming out of the ground too. So to reflect back to what you said about not being installed properly, I think that is a big concern because you can see a very significant difference of the live oaks in the front of the neighborhood versus where we are in the back.
That's interesting, particularly since you have other houses on your section that are doing that. It could be that the ground was horribly compacted in the process of developing the lots. So any number of things can contribute to
Yeah,
that.
that,
And we didn't get a say in this, because we didn't build this house or choose that tree or
Right.
anything like that. We just purchased the property.
Right.
Trying
Yeah, I
to
can-
take care of it.
yeah, I kind of think this was a required planted tree when it was developed. And it appears to me like when they planted the tree, it initially was planted too shallow. And we've seen in these kind of developments, landscaper will go in there and put a live oak 3 feet from the driveway and 3 feet from the sidewalk. Well, in 10 years, it's gonna, I mean, it's not really good planning, so. And I think it's gonna be a lot of root pruning on this tree.
Yeah, it
Well,
could,
That's what go ahead and Ben.
it could also be a soil. Peter mentioned the soil. The soil condition could not be favorable. Is there, Justin, did you look in the backyard? How much room is back there for additional trees?
I didn't really take a look in the backyard. I don't know if the applicant can answer that, if you've got room back there to.
I've got plenty of room in the backyard. I've got a small compost bed back there. I've got a shed. But the back fence, I could put trees all along the back fence, you know. I've even got a couple spots, maybe sort of beside the shed that would be more suitable. But my idea was to put them, you know, sort of along the back fence, not right on it, maybe about 4 feet off, so I'm not right next to my neighbors, you know, with some smaller trees. Maybe something that won't get as big, you know, maybe some crepe myrtles or something that we can all agree on that will, you know, take care of the mitigation part of this.
A crepe myrtle is not considered a canopy tree.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Well, there's other trees that will grow well in a time that you're going to be there that they grow into a mid-level high or tall tree, which is the goal here is to get, you know, the functional canopy, providing all the tree, all the benefits that a tree does. It doesn't have to be like a live oak. What doesn't necessarily wouldn't recommend a live oak to make the same kind of root system. But again, this is something the arborist can surely help you with. The only constraint would be number of trees isn't necessarily the goal. It'd be to plant trees that with enough space to become productive individuals, you know, through maturity. You were going to say something, Dan?
Well, I have some thoughts. One, just to help perhaps put the applicant's mind at ease about the tree roots and the clean out lines. Just tree roots don't go looking for water. They're not sensing that there's water inside that PVC pipe. Tree roots will grow where there is moisture. So if there's a leak in the pipe, then it's certainly gonna explode and grow right there, but they're not sensing the water that's in that pipe. They don't have that ability. But I have a question. A few folks have said that we're gonna have to remove a lot of the roots, and I'm wondering why are we thinking that? Because if you remove, for instance, and correct me if I'm wrong, because maybe I'm not seeing it right, but if we remove to protect their driveway, that root, you know, you root prune that, you go as was suggested up close to the foundation, if we think that there are roots there, and prune back 2 feet, 3 feet away from the house and root prune those, use root barrier or not. And then, as was suggested, and clean out around the, do any root pruning around the clean out line that's needed. Unless there's a real large amount of roots around that clean out line, then that's not a lot of roots removed to sustain a young, healthy tree like this. And then I do agree that for the tripping hazard, for the lawn mowing, that sort of thing, that mulch or a mixture of mulch and soil could help to alleviate that. So I'm just wondering, am I missing that other roots that I'm just not considering?
No, I wasn't. I'm honestly not concerned.
I didn't mean you. I mean,
No, it's okay.
I was looking
No.
at you, but wasn't pointing to you.
No, I agree with you. Like, honestly, the smaller roots that are closer to foundation and driveway are they're not really a concern to me. I don't think they would fall into the ordinance as problematic, hazardous, or actually, I don't think nuisance language is in there, but those large roots, so you have if I remember right, we were out there and we looked at it, I counted 4 or 5 significant roots coming off of that flare that were extending pretty far into the yard that would personally for me fall into a category of hazardous. And if those were taken off, I feel like it would be overly damaging to the tree if those were pruned. Now, filling it in for mulch, is this a part-time solution or is this a full-time solution? I guess that's what I'm thinking about with that. Would it be better for him in the long run to have a tree in the front yard that's not going to do this? And if you wanted a live oak, put it in the backyard where there's probably a whole lot less compacted soil since it's in the backyard and further away from the road. And then maybe a tree that just has a different growth habit that is also a canopy tree to put in the front yard. Honestly, I'm thinking about a pine tree for the front yard and oaks in the back.
I'd like to, sorry,
No.
reiterate that it seems to me that this particular tree and its roots has already compromised the integrity of the sidewalk area in front of our home. It has changed the grade of it. And so you can see little peaks starting in the sidewalk area in the front. So I think we do need to be very cognizant of the fact that that is an ongoing problem. It's peaking now, but it might break later. And I just feel like that's
You're exactly right. You're of course right. And
that's, you're talking about the front and the sides and our home. Even if we don't do anything with the driveway, I mean, it could very well down the line cause problems, but I mean, that's a wide radius.
right, you're of course right. But my point, the point I was making is there's no need to go in and remove all the trees in that radius, that you be very selective about what is needed to be removed. And that was my question is, because I thought we were beginning to consider all the roots and that's not needed. Now, is it the most, I don't necessarily agree with my panel mate that using mulch and soil is not a good alternative. Could it be a permanent thing? Yes, it could. I've seen that in landscapes many times, and it does become a permanent feature. And actually can be more attractive than the turf. And quite frankly, the tree is much more environmentally significant than the turf. But I'm not talking about getting rid of all the roots. I would, that's not in the least bit necessary.
Can I say one thing about, you brought up the soil? When I installed the fence in the backyard when we first moved in, there's not a lot of topsoil there. You don't have to dig far to hit clay. And once you hit the clay, it's not far beyond that you got water coming into the hole. So I don't think, and that's in the back where there's drainage in the back corner, back there, behind the driveway, back in that back corner between the two lots, there's a drainage hole right there that goes into the pond. And, I just feel like, like you said, maybe the soil was not really prepared that well for this. And I don't know if that tree with this soil is ever going to stop giving us this problem. The roots are going to continue to come up instead of dig down and spread out like I would prefer them to do. And, I understand it's a live oak. Everybody likes them. I don't have a problem with it. I have to rake it once a year or twice a year. So I know all about what it does to the yard, but I'm concerned about what it's going to do to the house, to the sidewalk, to my neighbors clean out, my clean out. I just feel like we can come up with a different option here and take this problem out. We can put some trees back in there that'll, give the same canopy back. And to be perfectly honest with you, I would rather have a tree in the backyard or two or whatever it takes, because that's where the afternoon sun is. It'll give me better shade on the house eventually than this one does with the front, because this is the morning sun and it's not near as hot as that afternoon sun is. So there's a lot of things that I'm considering here, and I know the trees are important, but I feel like, our property and our safety is a little more important than just one tree.
It was talk about this tree being planted a little high. And then somebody had also mentioned adding some soil around those roots to bring that up, trying to correct that situation. And if it were me, yeah, I love flowers, I'll admit. And azaleas are shallow rooted. You could put a bag of topsoil there close to that tree, and it would serve two purposes. It would cover up the roots, and you could have a beautiful plant. And I would do that all around that tree. Plant maybe 4 or 5 azaleas with a bag of topsoil for each azalea, and azalea's roots are shallow. And so that's the perfect setting.
Thank you for that. But going back to what I mentioned about the original picture of this tree when it was younger and now how the roots have done this. If the tree was ill planned and ill prepared or, ill planted, I don't see how adding dirt on top of it will create enough integrity to keep the roots from still doing that and uprooting everything that you're putting around it.
It wouldn't fix everything.
Okay, but removing the tree would fix everything. It would eliminate all those issues instead of putting a Band-Aid on those problems to address in the future. Removing that tree would eliminate those problems, and we could do this the right way.
Do some better planting.
We could do some better planting.
That
and
tree
plan-
wasn't improperly planted. That's just not the case.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, it just, here in the low country, if you have a choice between planting too low or too high, because our soil is so sandy, you plant an inch or two too high. So I didn't see anything. Was it planted high? Yes, it was. But that's a fairly common occurrence. But more importantly is that the soil table that you described with the clay very close to with the little topsoil and the clay very top, that's the reason that those trees those roots are above the soil level, because they can't penetrate because there's water down there and water. There's no oxygen for the roots to grow. So that's why they're there, because that's where there's oxygen. And in the backyard, you're going to have the same issue, perhaps worse, if it's as you described. And there are a couple of trees that do well, that do better than others in that sort of situation. And a live oak is one, and a ball cypress is another. And you certainly don't want a ball cypress if you're concerned with that sort of thing. So there's a dilemma here that we need to figure out. If I remember correctly, are there other live oaks in the front yards of properties in your neighborhood?
yes.
Address that issue.
Well, but
Yes, there are other live oaks in front of properties in our
Okay.
neighborhood. And that's one of the things that we were saying, because it seems like, and that's why I said ill planted. I'm not an expert, of course, but it seems that would be the case because you have comparatively a live oak or live oaks in several of the yards that are not doing this. Their roots seem to be going down and just spreading like you would expect that to happen. It would seem to me that if there are trees, live oak trees that have roots that are raising out as opposed to going down and out that way, then that would to me indicate that there was an issue in how they were planted, if they were planted shallowly and I'm not saying that, it was just, someone's, inexpertise or whatever.
right.
I'm just saying that this particular tree does not seem to be the best for that particular lot. And these are very small lots as well. I don't even think it's 1/4 of an acre of a lot. It's like 0.18. And so it might have been that this particular small tree or small lot was not the correct place for this type of tree. But,
Could be that.
and we're, reaping the results of that. And it would seem like it would make more sense to get something that was going to be a lot more, beneficial in this particular lot. I mean, we can compare our lots all day, but each of our lots is an individual lot with its own individual characteristics. And I think that needs to be taken in regard. Our particular lot does not seem to be, the best place for this type of tree and the way that this particular tree is growing.
I understand.
Yeah, I think also, talking about how it was planted, I don't think that's as much of an issue as just the soil conditions you have there so compacted that those roots are trying to find some type of air source. And so they come up to the surface to try to do that. So, whatever you do here, if you did replant there, I think you'd have to do something to try to correct that issue with the compaction.
As well as in the back.
And you guys offer those resources. You have lists of trees and different, maybe contractors or whatever that we can use to evaluate this, or I mean,
We can't recommend contractors for
Okay.
obvious reasons, but there's a list of contractors that we can
and
provide
there's a
you
list of trees that could
under any
better,
of those circumstances, yes.
okay.
And I just want to say one more thing, and I'll let y'all talk this out. I understand that there's other people in the neighborhood who have, asked for permission to do this and they've been denied. But I don't feel like anybody else in the neighborhood has anything to do with that tree. Every tree should be looked at on an individual basis. It shouldn't be a blanket that's thrown across the neighborhood to say, we had to put these trees in and y'all got to live with them. If some of them were incorrectly planted or the soil was not properly prepared, then we should be able to address that, and take care of it as an issue before it becomes a bigger issue. And that's my biggest concern here. I just want to get ahead of it before it gets to be a money pit and I've got to get it taken out eventually and repair my neighbor's sewer line and my sewer line. And I mean, there's so many things that could go wrong here.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we allow him to remove his tree and mitigate it properly.
I'll second that.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Next.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You'll need to work with the arborist on all these questions that came up, since you may have a peculiar situation of need a little bit more of attention. But know where we're coming from in terms of replacement and canopy loss. Your point is well taken that your tree, the neighbors have nothing to do with your tree. And so I think this will be to everybody's benefit.
What would be our next steps, then, as far as getting the permit to have the tree removed? Do we need to do a new application or
No,
do we,
no.
okay,
You got everything you need?
Right, you don't need a new application. We can work, as far as the mitigation goes, take a look at what you've got. It's obviously gonna narrow down that suggested species list so we can choose something appropriate for your site. But I will email you that list and we can talk more about what we should actually put in.
thank you.
I've talked with Stacks Nursery, Stacks Tree Removal. Each, going to do it. I've got somebody also lined up to take the stump out. And once we get that done, then we can get with you and maybe you come back out, we can look in the backyard and maybe we can even come to agreement where we might place a tree or two if people come together.
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you, guys.
If I could make a recommendation for you, when you have that stump ground, make sure they go the full 2-foot depth. Be very clear with them, because you need, part of changing your soil structure is going to be it. That's going to be part of it. But it's only a small part of it, just so you guys are aware. Changing the soil structure is not easy.
Yeah, I don't know how much we can do there, but I'm hoping we can come up with some agreement on a tree species that would be a little more conducive for what we've got, just kind of look at all angles here, but we appreciate y'all's time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other business questions to address? If not, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned.